Welcome to LMP Talks Wrestling. I hope all my listeners are doing well in these crazy times, but to keep up the positivity, we're back to smash another wrestling podcast. Raw just aired last night. Wrestlemania is being recorded this week with no audience. How crazy is that? And AEW's Blood and Guts match has been postponed. But I'm never alone in these podcasts. I love having guests on from all around the world, and today I'm back with my guest from episode 32. So without further ado, please help me welcome James. How's it going today, bud?
It's going well. All things considered, yeah, it's great. How about yourself?
It's going all right here. Everything's been changed. I've been getting in contact with previous guests and just seeing what they wanted to put out some podcasts because of the whole situation around the world.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. How has it been affecting you?
Well, here in the UK, it's been interesting. We officially went into lockdown last night at 8:30. Our Prime Minister came on and told us all that the only reason we can go outside is to go and shop, go to the hospital, and go for one piece of exercise, which, to be fair, for me, hasn't really impacted me that much because I have an exercise bike and I've got YouTube videos and all sorts that I can do my exercise in my house. So I've been effectively self-isolating since Wednesday last week, which has been interesting, but it means I've found lots of different ways to be entertained, and I've actually watched Raw the past couple of weeks, which is the first time I've watched Raw fully without just skipping through stuff or just using the YouTube channels to just see what's going on. So it's been an experience, and yeah, just got to keep going and just keep occupied, keep listening to podcasts and and all of that jazz.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of that too. I've been tuning into a lot of different podcasts during this time and just finding things to listen to. I was listening to Chris Jericho's podcast with Broken Matt Hardy there yesterday. That was excellent.
It's an amazing interview. If nobody's heard that, listen to this and then load up the Talk is Jericho with Matt Hardy, because it's brilliant.
It really is. It's kind of funny how everybody who leaves WWE kind of has that same opinion.
the same frustration of, I've got ideas, but they're not being listened to, and I'm not allowed to do what I want. It's interesting to hear a similar stance. Hopefully they'll get Brody Lee on, because that'll be fascinating with his little promo he cut as the Exultant One about the old men misjudging him or whatever the exact line is. But yeah, that would be fantastic to hear that. And it's great that we have this form of escapism still going on. There's a few interesting things that one company is going along one line and another company is going down another line, but I'm sure we'll talk about that a bit more as we get into it.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned there just at the beginning that you caught Raw last night, and I'm curious as to what's your opinion on watching Raw in its current state. Like, it's pretty, I mean, pun intended, it's kind of raw right now.
It's incredibly raw. I did enjoy the fact that they listened and they changed the camera angle so that it was looking down the ramp. A bit like AEW Dynamite. They sort of took that on board, and they weren't too proud to actually go, actually, that's a better way of doing it. There's been, I think, during the tag match with Angel Garza and Andrade, Ricochet, and Cedric Alexander, I don't know if it was our feed, but it was very difficult to hear the commentary, because all you could really hear was Zelina Vega and the wrestlers on the mat just talking to each other and shouting over the top of each other. So that was tricky, but it's fun. But I got to the point where I was just a bit like, ooh, I'm starting to see, especially with the WWE shows, you see their process a lot more.
Yeah.
when there's no audience reacting and bits and pieces, and it took, I must admit, it took me out of it for last night's Raw. It became tricky to watch, but I did like the way that they introduced the Royal Rumble match from 2015 with Brock Lesnar, with Paul Heyman saying, "Look, this is proof how tough Brock Lesnar is." That was a good way of segueing into the match, rather than just going, "Oh, by the way, here's a match for you." So yeah, they're learning, they're getting better.
That is true, and I do agree with Lesnar and Paul Heyman kind of introducing that triple threat match, and it was an excellent triple threat match back then. I'm just at the point now though where I want to tune into Raw and watch new content. I can find all the repeat content right now in the world to find because I'm at home and I'm self-isolated and I can go online and find everything. So.
Yeah.
Tuning into it like a 20-30 minute match, despite it being really good because it was, I don't want to see it on Monday nights. You know what I mean?
No, I get that, and I did notice a lot of the video packages, like their introduction to things, are even more elongated. So they're showing a lot more from like 2 weeks ago and then a week ago, because they're going, right, we need to extend the time that we're not exposed with the lack of show that we've got. I mean, I wouldn't have gone back to that 2015 match, so it's something to go. Yeah, it's something I wouldn't have gone and watched, but watching it, I enjoyed it. And what I noted whilst watching it was the fan reaction. I mean, they might have gone back and rejigged it and made it sound a lot louder and a lot more raucous than it maybe was, but it was interesting comparing. That was 5 years ago. And everybody was treated like a star when they came out. And during the match, like the Cena sucks chants and the reactions when Cena looked like he was going to win the match because he's pumping out AAs on Lesnar. And I was just thinking, you know what? That was only 5 years ago. And the crowd has changed in that time. They don't react as much to the wrestlers that are in the ring, because they've been conditioned in a way to be like, well, they're not these superstars, apart from maybe Brock is the only one that really holds that candle now. He's the big attraction because we don't see him, and he's protected so much with the booking. But yeah, it was interesting with that comparison. And yeah, I tell you what, when we go back to having crowds, it's going to be amazing. Those first few shows are just going to be so loud.
Yeah, it's kind of in a weird way. It's kind of like you don't miss it until it's gone, kind of thing.
Exactly.
I didn't realize just how much the crowd needed to be there. And when you mentioned about like Zelina Vega and you can hear her and the other wrestlers in the ring, I felt that way last night too. I was sitting there watching Raw, and I was like, oh my God, they're awfully loud. Like, I understand they're in the Performance Center. There's not really much a voice can go to. It's not a big arena. But all I could hear was in the ring. I could hear this. I could hear that. I could hear them do, calling out moves and calling out this. And it was just very distracting from the commentary. Usually you don't ever hear that because the audience is in the ring, right? So, or not in the ring, but along the side of it.
Yeah, it is interesting how, like, it was that match where I noticed it the most, because there were so many, like, Angel Garza and Andrade are going to be chatty. I mean, the way Angel Garza was messing about with the tag rope in the corner, that was fun. He tags Andrade. The referee says you weren't holding the tag rope, so he walks across to the other side of the corner. He's holding the tag rope there, tags himself in, and the referee's like, "No, that corner, but I'm holding the rope." And it was just great little bit of comedy. He showing himself. He's really grabbed the opportunity. The match for WrestleMania with the Street Profits, I don't understand where that's come from.
That was my next question.
It's kind of just been thrown at WrestleMania with no build or anything, and it's like, why are they a tag team? But I mean, it'll be a good match. But there are some interesting. I mean, the match everybody's talking about for WrestleMania is obviously Elias against King Corbin. That is the highlight for me coming into it, because that feud has been building so perfectly.
Yeah, it hasn't been that bad between him and Baron Corbin. I just, at this point, because of how Baron Corbin was booked, I just can't invest in anything.
No.
I'm unable to. I don't mean to. I want to, but I need to chill out. It's like Shane McMahon. I need to go away. Baron Corbin was just so overbooked with Roman Reigns. I can't do it.
No. To be honest, I don't think anyone's actually looking forward to that match. It's one of those weird matches where it's strange. Like WWE, they book their own shows. How they've gone, oh, this is the first WrestleMania, too big to be contained to one night. It's like, no, that's probably about 2 years ago it became too big to be contained to one night. This one you could have kept what you had and have one night, but you've gone, actually no, we'll get two nights out of this. We'll capture the audience. We'll create this big history for us. This is the first time WrestleMania is over 2 nights, and I look forward to the documentary in 10-15 years time where they revise it all and say that it was a great piece of visionary booking by Vince McMahon that made WrestleMania a 2-night event, because it was such a huge event.
I can imagine this now in 10-20 years when there's this documentary out. I can actually see this now. That's really funny.
It is interesting, but maybe like next year's WrestleMania will be a 2-night event, and you won't get that exhaustion like we did last year with Kofi winning, and then the women's match was it was so many hours afterwards that you're exhausted. I mean, I was exhausted watching it over a few days, because I was kind of getting through some matches just going, I want to find out what happens, but I'm not that invested. Come on, let's get to the main event. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom was good this year over the 2 days. There were still some matches that could have been taken out, but yeah, we'll see how this goes. The only concern I have is what's his name? Gronkowski.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's something. I mean, as a Brit, I don't watch American football. I have no context of who he is, and the way he came out on Smackdown and basically was a bully and just looked like an idiot. I was like, I'm not looking forward to this for how many hours WrestleMania goes on and he's presenting and being this kooky idiot.
Yeah, I can't really get behind the guy either, but that's, again, I'm not a football fan either, but I don't know. I just can't resonate with him, but I'm sure other people out there are resonating with him, so it's just one other part of the WrestleMania card that I don't really have to invest in.
Yeah, and it'd be interesting to hear what people who know about him think of him, because is this what he's always like, or is this him playing the WWE version of himself? What is his actual character like? I know when Tyson Fury came and did the bits for the Saudi show, he apparently, again, somebody I'm not that invested in. I'm not into the boxing. I like my fighting sports choreographed rather than real. And he was a lot more like himself, but still turned up a bit. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what people think of him and how the show goes down with him as the presenter.
Yeah. So with WrestleMania 36, I mean, if they're even still calling it WrestleMania 36 in the next 2 weeks or whatever, what matches are you looking forward to the most with everything that's been going on?
Well, before all of the stuff that is happening, I was really looking forward to the Roman Reigns Goldberg match, and I know the way that Goldberg got the title was quite controversial for some, but the match that has resulted from it, I mean, you could actually say that you don't need the title to be involved there. But the Battle of the Spears, I wanted to see that with a crowd that was pumped. Goldberg's entrance with the whole WrestleMania feel would have been amazing. Now I'm more fascinated by how is that going to work in a closed environment with a guy like Goldberg that requires the theatrical side of it all. How does he perform under that spotlight? Will it be short? It's got to be short. It's Goldberg. I mean, it was like Austin coming up the ramp last week on Raw. He blew himself out coming up the ramp.
Yeah.
Goldberg's not too far off that, to be fair. I mean, he's in his 50s. He's in great shape for that, but he's not in his prime. But now I'm looking at the card and going, you know what? I'm still looking forward to Becky Lynch against Shayna Baszler. I love Shayna Baszler. Last time I was on, I forgot about her, and she nearly killed me for the Royal Rumble match. And yeah, I'm for Shayna. She's that intense. She doesn't need a crowd. It's going to be if they do it. I mean, Shayna has to win that match because she is this machine, and she will benefit from the fact there's no crowd there. And you've then got an alibi for Becky to say, well, actually the crowd weren't there, and I need the help from the crowd, maybe going forward or something like that. But yeah, I'm still looking forward to the Shayna match. Drew against Brock. I was watching Raw, and I was still looking forward to that match, but I don't think you give Drew the title in an empty arena.
Yeah, that's that. I've been thinking about that too. I was like, do you give the title to Drew in an empty arena? Like the exact same thought. And I feel that a lot of title changes might be changed. Like the original title changes might have been changed just because there's not going to be any audience.
Yeah, I think that's why we've possibly not got this US title match. That there were like the Mexican possible ladder match that could have happened, because it's a bit like Blood and Guts. You're not going to do a spot fest match in front of nobody. I mean, a ladder match is one of the most dangerous matches they can do. Well, what's the point if there's no crowd?
It's true. It's a good point. Sorry, just about the Goldberg and Roman Reigns match. I have a question about that because you mentioned it. Who would you really want to win that match, though? Because you can see two ways of it going. If Goldberg retains or Roman Reigns wins, I mean, there's no audience, and with certain changes being made to the card because of the no audience, how do you think that would go?
That is an interesting question. Originally, I would have expected Roman to take the title away, but having no audience there and the potential to have Roman cheered has gone because of the way that Goldberg has been received.
Yeah.
But the problem is I don't trust that WWE can keep the heat on Goldberg for long enough for us to get that crowd reaction. So I think you still take the title for Roman, and he can be that face of the company. He can be the guy that is there still, and saying now that it now more than ever you need a face of the company that's here every week.
Yep.
And take it that way. Take it along there. This is something that we can do this together, kind of thing. Whilst with Goldberg, you can't go along that story. So, yeah, I still think Roman should probably win it, but it's a different reason now to what it was originally.
Yeah, and no crowd actually might help Roman Reigns' victory.
It might do. It's a shame. I mean, only WWE could kind of do this, where you've got a guy coming back from beating leukemia. I mean, the euphoria that there should have been with him, and then they put him in that never-ending feud with Baron Corbin that just, oh, you beat me this week, but next week we'll do this, and oh, you beat me again, but this week we'll do this, and oh, ha, ha. And it just kept going on, and I think it was 6 months, was it, in the end, that we were doing that?
Yeah, it was up there. Yeah, it was pretty close to that.
Yeah, and it's like, over what? It just seemed to be, over who's the leader, locker room leader.
I know I'm only one fan, but that whole 6-month feud between him and Roman Reigns, it sucked the life out of me for both characters. Nobody walked away from there looking better. Nobody. Like when I look at that, I'm like, okay, well, what was the point of it? If two stars walk out of a feud and nobody is stronger, or even only one person is stronger, the point is to elevate them both. And at this point, seeing Goldberg versus Roman Reigns, I'm glad that you're interested in that match. Truly, I am. But I've lost all interest in it. That's like the one of the few matches on WrestleMania card that I have zero interest in because of what happened beforehand. And WWE has to blame for themselves with that one. But I mean, I'm sure other people are invested in Goldberg and Roman Reigns, but that's just me. That's just one fan of out of many.
I think with the Goldberg thing, it might be my age. Like, Goldberg was the king in the late 90s. So yeah. I still have that affection towards him, even though I know all of his flaws and I know all of the criticisms of him. But you can't take that 10-year-old look of Goldberg and going, oh my God, look at him.
Yep.
And the fact that he's still got that physique and that presence at that age, and that entrance will always be that entrance. That's what I mean with the WrestleMania thing. With no crowd, it's going to be odd, because that whole presentation of him is going to be exposed. And as I say, it's like a morbid fascination with him, because it's like, ooh, am I going to see this guy be exposed for what he is, or are they going to somehow hide it? And that's still holds the fascination with me. It's not, yeah, I understand the thing with the Roman Reigns stuff, and yeah, how you can have have a company that just bludgeons you over the head with these feuds that just go on and on and on and on, and there's no payoff. Like the Usos and Dolph Ziggler and Bobby Roode were involved in that feud, but they don't mention it. They've gone off to do their thing, and it's kind of like it existed, and then it's gone away again. Somebody like, it's WrestleMania season, so you know what? Braun Strowman's disappeared again. It's
like the Men in Black thing. Where
yeah.
They put it on your eyes, and you're forced to forget something. That's what happens in WWE. Every week they're just like poof, and then you're supposed to forget what you've seen.
That kind of is the way they produce a weekly television show. It's like, WWE is fantastic with the pay-per-views and showing a montage, and those video packages building to the match make you go, oh, I care for this. But their weekly output, just, there's no consistency to it. Like we said before, where's this Angel Garza Andrade tag team come from?
Yep.
Like, where's that? That's literally just appeared, and it was announced on social media that they were going for the titles at WrestleMania. Like, why? Where?
That's exactly it. Why? The first thing I said last night when I saw that announced, I was just like, why? Like, they could have picked any actual Raw tag team and not stuck two people together.
Like Street Profits against AOP.
Yeah, exactly.
Straight away, just off the top of my head, makes more sense, because you've got AOP, you've got Seth Rollins' little gang, They want to get the tag team matches. Seth goes, oh, well, I've got Kevin Owens, so I can't get them back. AOP, you're our tag team. Go. And then
The
you've
only
got...
thing I can think of is possibly certain people aren't available because they're in self-isolation, maybe?
That might be the thing. That might be the thing. Because
Just throwing everybody out that they can possibly get their hands on for Mania.
it's like Dynamite last week with you had the Lucha Bros, but you didn't have Pac. You had the Butcher and the Blade, but you didn't have Bunny.
Yeah.
Some members were missing, most likely, like you say, because of the situation that's going on. So yeah, it's very much. I mean, WrestleMania is going to be a show. We know that. Whether it will be an amazing show, like Rhea Ripley against Charlotte would have been fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But now it's kind of like, oh, the whole package where Rhea went to the stadium and was... to be honest, I didn't like that package, but I liked the fact that they showed where it was happening, and it gave a bit of atmosphere and something to look forward to. The evolution of Rhea's character since she beat Shayna Baszler, I've not enjoyed, because they've taken away that badass attitude that she had where she beat Shayna, and it kind of went back to the weird War Games Rhea Ripley where everybody's their mate and everything's all right kind of thing. And I'm like, no, that's not how you got over. That's not what you are. That's not how you change yourself with your presentation either.
Speaking of Rhea and Shayna and all them, I'm actually curious to know what you think, because since you love Shayna Baszler so much, and I'm really curious to know what you think of this possible fantasy booking. What do you think of Shayna winning, of course, against Becky Lynch, but then Becky Lynch winning Money in the Bank and going after Shayna?
I think that I'm just trying to think who you could put in the Money in the Bank winners match and make it good. Well, this will make you happy. Alexa Bliss winning it would be good.
She already won. I'm all right.
Yeah, but it might get her away from what they're doing with her and Nikki. Like, that had so much potential, and as again, just kind of, it's as if they get bored by people. But I think the best thing for Becky to do would be to disappear for a bit, if I'm honest, because she needs to kind of, maybe, I don't know the schedule, but she loses at WrestleMania. She's crestfallen. She's got too big for her boots, and she recognizes that, and she goes away. She trains harder. She gets focused again. Because for me, I appeared on another podcast in the summer, and I was like, I'm getting bored of Becky already last summer because of the way that there didn't seem to be a challenge for her. Mm-hmm. And that's progressed to now, where she's become this parody of herself, which hopefully is intentional. And she just needs to go away. People need to just forget about her for a little bit and miss her. And they show that Shayna is this strong character because, like Liv Morgan can't get to Shayna's level. Nobody can get to Shayna's level. And then the man comes back. Maybe, as you say, maybe at Money in the Bank and wins Money in the Bank, but they need to be careful, I think, because they have ruined the character, I think, of the man. The man's not been the man since unfortunately just before WrestleMania last year, I don't think.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying about the Becky Lynch character kind of growing stale and stuff like that. We were talking about that on my previous episode, and that's why I brought it up. I was curious because the idea of having Becky Lynch lose, I think, is definitely the right decision with how badass Shayna is, and I definitely don't want a repeat of what happened a couple of years ago with Asuka coming up from NXT, being undefeated almost, and then losing to Charlotte. I don't want that happening to Shayna. And it does make sense for Shayna to win right now. And let's face it, Becky Lynch has had the title now for it'll be a full year come Mania, so I'm perfectly okay with her losing it. I feel though that if Becky Lynch does lose, she should go off TV for at least a month or two, and then she can come back into the fray, and then we can build up Money in the Bank. And whoever else is in that match, it'll be a great match because the women's ladder matches I think have all been good, minus the very first one with James Ellsworth winning. But overall, that match was still good, except for the ending. So I'm wondering if Becky Lynch wins the Money in the Bank briefcase, then she could go around kind of hunting Shayna, which kind of lately Shayna's been hunting Becky, biting her neck and making her scared and telling her I'm coming for you. It's like the hunter becoming the hunted, but then it's the hunter or the hunted becomes the hunter. You know what I mean? Because then she could start chasing Shayna for that belt because she'd be like, hey, Shayna, I always have this briefcase. I'm coming after you.
As you described that, a vision came into my head, and I don't know if I want it or not, but Becky Lynch dressed as a Blues Brother with the shades on and the briefcase. I don't know if that's cool or not. I'd like to see that, actually.
She'd make it cool.
She'd definitely try. I think that does make a sense. Like, I agree with you with the 2 months, maybe even 3 months, to just go, enjoy your life a little bit, just go and train, keep away from the screen. We have this planned for you. Come back. But this is the thing I was thinking about before I came on. Like, sometimes when I'm watching WWE, I wonder if am I a wrestling fan? Because some of it is just so mind-numbing. Like, some of the stuff they do. It's just like Rowan Spider.
Yes.
The whole, for Drew McIntyre so your big baby face to go against Brock Lesnar is an animal killer. Like, okay, right. What did that spider actually do to Drew? Nothing. He just attacked it. I mean, it's one way to get rid of that spider, but, they did that to themselves.
Yep.
Whilst you look at... Then I watch AEW or I watch Being the Elite and I go, no, I am a wrestling fan. I just like wrestling. The sports entertainment side of it sometimes puts me off. And if AEW hit a problem, like they did with the Exalted one, like that December episode where it all went wrong because they were meant to have Marcy Scurll
right, yes,
appear, but obviously it all changed. They've kind of rebooked it and got themselves out of it, and they've got Brody Lee in, and it looks interesting. It's built something up.
I've been very excited.
Yeah, and the way that they booked it as well, they hinted at Matt Hardy. They were sending you these little hints of going, oh, everything's wonderful. It kind of was like, oh, well, it could be Matt Hardy, but it probably isn't Matt Hardy. It probably is Brody Lee because of where they're going to announce it. But it was still well done. And that is kind of where I'm getting my joy now from the wrestling. And even last week's show, if we're comparing the first Smackdown and Raws with the first Dynamite show with no crowd, it was unbelievable what they did really with Dynamite. They created an atmosphere when there isn't really one, and they changed the way that everything kind of felt. Yes, there was bits you still heard the wrestlers talking to each other, but you had the daft segments with MJF and Sean Spears betting on the matches and doing these little bits and building their characters.
Yeah.
And that's something I hope, I watched Ricochet last night on last night's Raw, and I felt so sad watching him because a year
I love
ago,
it.
he was Ricochet. He'd been obviously in NXT for about a year. He and Aleister Black had been put together in this tag team, and that match with Aleister Black, Ricochet, and the War Raiders for the NXT tag team titles was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And you look at him now, and he's dropping out. He's in a tag team with Cedric Alexander, another guy that you just where's it all gone wrong, guy? Like, where's it all gone?
I even said this or not last week, but a couple of weeks ago on my podcast episode. I was like, who the hell did Ricochet piss off backstage?
He must have done something because he's Ricochet. Like it was mentioned a few months ago where somebody said something where you watch Ricochet. It might have been Brian Alvarez. You watch Ricochet now, he's a lot slower in the way he wrestles. His moves are a lot slower. That speed, that frenetic energy has gone.
Yep.
And it has. It's scary how Ricochet, like anybody listening to this knows Ricochet is amazing. But to be in a situation where Ricochet is just there, he's not even a draw. It's not, oh my God, you've got to see Ricochet. He's just doing his moves and he's getting his paycheck and he's clocking off, and I bet he's looking at his contract going, I hope this runs down so I can get out, because he just doesn't look happy. Like he's shaved as well. He looked weird. Like he came out, his head was like really bald, and I was like, what?
He said on Twitter a few days ago that because a lot of people address these concerns, and he said he was fine, but I'm not really sure what's going on with the issue. But I do know that Raw wasn't entirely bad last night. With everything that went on, the only thing I didn't really care for was the repeat of that match. I kind of tuned out for that half hour. And the rest of it, though, it really wasn't that bad. The matches weren't even that bad, despite you could hear them. It wasn't that bad.
No, they weren't that bad. I think it's just me looking at wrestlers I actually cared about.
Oh, I agree with the whole Ricochet thing.
And the whole Ricochet thing, it's horrible to see. But no, it wasn't a bad show. It's just, I think it's still getting used to that whole no crowd thing and the way that they produce the sound.
Yeah.
And getting the acoustics right, because last night the ring was too loud compared to the commentators, and it's just, I did like the fact that I think it was during the Andrade and Angel Garza match where Street Profits said something on commentary, and Zelina Vega just turned around and said, "Oh, shut up," to them, because she could hear them from where they were on the stage. And that kind of thing, that like the Asuka stuff they did the week before, which, and I was like, okay, it's Asuka doing this, but it was entertaining because she went full into it. She went fully into it, and yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. WrestleMania, they'll have hopefully sorted stuff and make, like, I'd love the Fiend John Cena match to be a bit like the Final Deletion and the Ultimate Deletion, in that it's a bit more kooky and a bit more weird, but whether Vince McMahon will go for that based on what Matt Hardy said about how he was just stopped from doing stuff because it's like, this is the thing I do now. Please let me do this. And it's like, oh, well, we'll put you on. It was interesting to hear about the Bray Wyatt, Matt Hardy, the Deleters of Worlds tag team, that Matt wanted to do vignettes with Bray every week, but then they ended up just being a normal tag team and doing 3 or 4 minute matches, and it just didn't work because they're not that type of act.
Yep, I agree. A lot of what was said last night on the Chris Jericho podcast was really, really interesting. And the fact that, again, I know we mentioned it before, but the fact that so many people come out of there and they say, it's not that they're mad that all of their ideas are being shot down. It's just at least take one. Just listen to at least one of my ideas. Just consider anything, use any part of my idea, right? But a lot of people who are leaving there are so frustrated because they keep going to the drawing board and keep saying, here, have this idea, here, have this idea, here, have this idea. And it's constantly saying, no, 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 no. And after that, I mean, of course you'd be frustrated because you just want to have a little bit of creative control about where your journey as a wrestler goes. And when you're a wrestler, I would hope to God that, yes, it's about the company that you're in because the company's hired you, they're trying to make somebody out of you. But at the same time, I would hope that company shows a little bit of respect to its wrestlers and to its roster and says, here, we'll give you a little bit of creative control, or here's some bullet points, make it your own, all these things. It's the small things that really come alive through the TV screen, because half the time I'm sitting there watching AEW, or not even half the time, I think it's the majority of the time, I'm sitting there and I'm so excited. Wednesday nights are a breath of fresh air. Even when they did this whole no audience thing, they really knocked it out of the park. I sat there last Wednesday night feeling so happy, so energized. Cody's promo was amazing. He reminisced with the audience and empathized with them and sympathized with them, but at the same time, while keeping the story intact and saying, hey, Adam Page, can you work with us and stuff like that, despite everything. It made you feel like you were being rewarded, but at the same time, you were being empathized with. Like, they couldn't have done that any better. And then I look back at WWE's programming and I get very, very confused. I know it's two different promotions. I know they're not going to do the same thing, but AEW seems to be going above and beyond for their audience. And I know that maybe at some point that might burn out, but WWE still seems like they're kind of coasting, if that makes sense.
I think the difference between the two companies is their ability to book long term. Like the whole Adam Page stuff. Like when Adam Page came out to Cody and just lifted his glass and said, "Yeah, I'm going to be there for you," I was like, "Awesome!
Yep.
That is exactly what that character would do." Yep. He's not happy where he is at the moment. He doesn't want to be part of the Elite, but you know what? His mate has called him out and said, "Will you be there for me?" And he's gone, "Yeah, I will be. I will be there for you. Don't worry about it. We've got some problems, but we're mates." And I just feel like that subtlety, that nuance of storytelling they can't do it in WWE.
Yeah, I agree.
Like if it was WWE, Adam Page would have come down with a chair or something and walked up into the ring and then it just would be too over the top.
Yeah.
And I really hope that the situation allows AEW to build that audience up, to build that, because there's not much on in terms of live sport, and so long as they can get something out, like even if they put in being the Elite as like little snippets to just cut it up a bit, like it's something different and it feels more personal and it feels like you get to know these characters, and that is the whole point of the wrestling is about the characters. You've got to care about these guys. You can't just be like, oh, they're interchangeable, which I feel even more so. Like WWE, they're interchangeable, and it's getting worse, I feel, than getting better. Like I was so annoyed after last year's WrestleMania when the whole Viking experience happened.
Yeah, it was something special, wasn't it?
It was just like, are you kidding me? I have invested in these guys. Like I didn't know them from the Indies. I didn't know them as War Machine, but I knew them as Raw Raiders, and I was impressed by them and just like these guys are amazing. These will blow your socks off. But to call them the Viking Experience on that first, this is the Viking Experience, and everyone's like, no, it's not.
Yep.
What is the point of getting invested in these characters? And I honestly, I stopped watching NXT for about a month because I just went, what's the point? There's no point, because if they get called up, they just become something else. Like I came back into wrestling 2 years ago. I hadn't been on that journey yet. That was my first kind of like show of what WWE does with its NXT call-ups.
Oh wow!
And from a level where I'd invested from the ground and built up with them, and that was like, why would you do that? Why do you do that? And like, I have been at points this year where I've gone, I'm very like, part of me was like, do I cancel WWE after this year's WrestleMania? Because, as I said before, I'm getting what I want from wrestling from AEW, not WWE. And depends how things go. Like, at the moment, I'm keeping it because there's stuff to do on there. There's so much to get lost in. The documentaries that they're showing are hilarious. If nobody has watched the Ruthless Aggression Era documentary, please do, because it will provide you with laughs. Every single episode will bring something. You'll just go, that's interesting to see, but then they'll WWE it the next line. They'll go, oh, but then this, like the one that I told you about like earlier this week, the current one where it's like Raw was pushing the entertainment boundaries, and then it showed the musical chair segment with Chris Jericho and Ric Flair chasing Stacy Keibler around, and it's like, no, that, how can you say that with that image? Please don't put those two things together. But those kind of things, seeing backstage and seeing, that's the thing, seeing the backstage stuff, I get a lot more from than their actual product, which maybe they should look at that stuff, like the 365 days stuff and the 24/7 bits and pieces documentaries that they do. They're fantastic. It's just unfortunately their weekly product. They just can't book week to week.
Yeah, it's really interesting that the fact that they've come this far, I guess, and while they can book week to week with certain feuds, it's very scarce and there's not much of it. But James, it's been an amazing having you on here, but we're at the end of the podcast.
I'm sorry, I've ranted a little bit about WWE.
Oh no, not at all, not at all.
It just needed saying in a way, but yeah, it's been a pleasure. I can't believe it's gone already.
Yeah, we're about 45 minutes in or so, and I try to keep them at the 45-minute mark-ish, around there. So, is there any social media you want to put out there?
I'm on Facebook. I'm in Simon Miller's group. Okay. I share stuff in there. So, I mean, I normally say I'm not on social media, but times have changed. So we just need to be nice to each other. Please be nice to each other and share stuff and interact with each other. I think that's what we've got to do at the moment.
The best message: be kind to one another, be understanding, be compassionate, and most importantly, have patience, because other people out there are struggling more than you or anybody out there. Your situation, you're not alone. It's crazy times. With that, we'll wrap things up. Thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the podcast. If you want to hear your voice on here, simply send me a PM on any of my social media. You can find me at SoundCloud under Lotus Moon Productions, Facebook under Lotus Moon Productions, Twitter under Lotus Moon Prod, and you can search us on YouTube under Lotus Moon Productions. Thank you so much, James, for coming on once again.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to have a conversation.
Absolutely, and we'll probably have you on. I'll probably be having guests on a lot. Frequent guests on a lot in the next few weeks because of the world's predicament. So if you want to come on the next couple of weeks, I can totally do that again.
Yeah, that sounds cool. It'll keep me from talking to the plant.
All right. Well, this has been LMP Wrestling, and we are signing off.